transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroads where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future. Shedding
we now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in the process of transition.
Welcome to Transition Radio.
Hello, and welcome.
Oh, we're tilted.
Yeah, we're tilted because we're going to test it. There we go. Now we're not tilted anymore.
No.
So, guys, how's it going?
How is everything, everyone? We are 4 days, less than 4 days,
yes,
from our cruise starting. So, super excited about that. But the real journey begins in about 6 weeks, 5 weeks.
Yeah, I think we're kind of a little bit stuck because now we have. Do you have stuff open?
Nope, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, it begins in 5 or 6 weeks, actually.
Yeah, our connection's really slow.
Yeah, that's because we went from 150 down back to 75, but it should be working a lot better than what it is now. I don't understand why it's doing that. I've got everything shut down. Bear with us here for a second, folks. Is there anything else you shut down? Let's open the other. See, this is, it'll be good that we're not going to be doing this live anymore. We've only actually got 4 more shows left. We won't have a show next week. We're going to be on a cruise, and then we leave here at the beginning of May, so we're not going to have a show, but we will be documenting our journey, and it will be a heck of a lot more exciting for you than for us sitting here and reading.
4 walls and stuff. We'll be having beautiful backgrounds behind us. We'll have all sorts of different challenges, I'm sure, and different things that we're going to encounter along the way. I don't know.
I don't know what it's doing. Can you guys tell us? It's because I mean, what I'm
watching right now.
2 people. Yeah. Let me see. Maybe we shut this off. Phones. Shut it off from Wi-Fi. Maybe that will help because it's really acting up. Crazy stuff.
Yeah. What else we could possibly do?
Don't know. Maybe if I shut the camera off and shut it back on. Did that improve anything?
No.
That's usually a delay.
No.
For you guys watching, let us know. Are we coming in choppy? Yeah, just turn it off and then I turn it back on. That's still. Oh well. Hopefully things. Sometimes it just shows like that, but I'm not quite sure. It's on Wi-Fi, it's on direct, and I'm not sure. Well, anyway, the show must go on, so let's talk about what we're going to talk about.
Not if it's all stuttered. I mean, if people can't watch it, there's no use doing this show.
I'm not quite sure why it's doing that.
I'm not quite sure why the connection is so
maybe
poor.
If I change the fine with a bit. So nothing. Maybe change a bit more medium. Let me do something else. One tick, folks. It's not that one, is it? Check, check, 1, 2, check, check. Going back off the edge. Can you guys hear us now?
Okay, she said volume. Volume is good now.
All right, so let's get this show on the road then. Anyway, as I was saying, you went on.
Yeah, I was on just my Facebook and noticed there's this trans woman who's feels like she's pretty far along in her transition. She's a late transitioner like me, so she's in her 40s and just talks about her exploits and accomplishments and how she's been able to, I guess, pretend that she's a genetic female.
Okay, which happens a lot in the community.
And say things to men that would not be completely sharing the truth, because I just think it's best to be honest. Whenever I was on dating sites in the past, I always said that I was transgender. People to think that I was trying to fool anyone, you know. And this person, I guess they're very sexually active, and they do a lot of one night stands and, you know, relationships and stuff like that, short term. And is just like so proud of the fact that, you know, I guess she's post-op, I guess, I would suppose. She just thinks that it's fun to just fool guys.
And I think that's one of the reasons, or one of the many reasons, there are dead bodies, and we have a list a mile long on the Day of Remembrance, because a lot of trans individuals think it's okay to not disclose their transness. And when the party involved finds out, they become angered. And I'm not condoning the anger, I'm not condoning the behavior, but that is the reason it happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing that every time, you know, we gather to remember people that have died in the trans community every November, that you always find out that the majority of them were working in the sex trade, or they were escorts of some sort, right? Mm-hmm. And you just kind of wonder, because it's like, okay, if you wouldn't get yourself into that situation, you wouldn't have a problem, you know, as much. I mean, I know that there was this Filipino trans girl who lured a Marine and didn't disclose that she was trans.
She ended up dead.
And she ended up dead.
I mean, there was a husband who was married to a trans woman and found out she was trans after the fact, and he cut her up and cooked her. You know, things of that nature. I mean, it's, you know, it's deceived, and people tend to do all sorts of crazy things when they feel lied to, especially when a man questions his sexuality.
Yeah.
And I know that the, you know, the word around a trans individual is like, well, you know, it's my business and it's my medical. I don't have to disclose my medical problems with anyone, but if you're going to go to bed with somebody, that it becomes that other person's problem. It's like saying you have AIDS and you don't have to tell the other person you're going to bed with that you have AIDS. I mean, that's something that needs to be disclosed. And the sooner the trans community learns, and especially happens with trans women, you know, that this is not okay, it's not right, the sooner the problem disappears of all the violence against, you know, being lied to creates a lot of anger in people.
Yeah, but what happens is it goes farther than just it being a personal choice of the matter, because what ends up happening is that this person is giving advice to young trans girls out there that being the way that she's being, in the fact that she's deceptive and hiding the truth from, you know, encounters that she has with men. I mean, that in itself just doesn't affect her. That affects me. That affects anyone who is in the trans community, because it goes to the overall climate of feeling and sentiment that the general public has towards the transgender community.
It puts everyone in a bad light, and it makes everyone seem like we're deceivers, we're liars. I mean, people already have a hard time dealing with this, and so when people do what she does, then people see us as deceiving people, people that lie, people that are trying to, you know, be something they're not. And it's just, you know, it has created a lot of problems.
And that's the problem, though, is that here we are trying to clean up our, you know, how people view us and stuff. And there's people like this person doing those things and bragging about it.
Yeah, like collecting trophies. I've now dated X amount of men as a stealth trans person. And, you know, the guy Googled the name, found out that they were trans, and then the guy goes, you think I'm stupid? I mean, and one day she'll end up with flies in her mouth.
But it doesn't make any sense, because in this day and age, if you are on social media and you're trans and you're posting about your life, there's nothing private. There's nothing stealth about you.
No, there isn't.
You
can't
could
hide
be
it.
the most genetically appearing female-ish type person that you want to be, but it's like same thing. Like for say like the big stars that are on social media now, like Gigi Gorgeous. I mean, everybody knows that they're trans. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
And because we're so visible now as trans people, which I think was one of the biggest mistakes, now everybody looks for telltale signs.
Yeah, they look
broad
for the
shoulders,
hands.
the hands, the size proportion of the face, the nose. I mean, there's certain things that,
Are giveaways.
are giveaways. So,
And this person specifically is 6'2", has broad shoulders,
mhm.
and I mean, there's nothing you can say. I mean, there's not that many women out there that are 6'2".
Yeah. And the ones that are, because there are tall women, there's still certain features.
But not many.
No, not many. But there are, the ones that are, the features
Are different.
Are different. The way they walk, the way they talk, the voice, the demeanor, the body language, it's just different.
And you see how they carry on in their conversation. It's like this painted, artificial
It's very fake.
expression.
Very, very
And the mannerisms are very just structured and not fluid at all. And, everything's just very dry and mechanical. I mean, there's just something about the way a genetic female moves her body.
Right.
It's different.
And especially if a person did not transition to later in life, you just can't remove programming, neurological movements from the body. You can't.
I mean, I understand that men move in a way that's more of a squarish line,
Linear,
and women move in more of a way of a rounder, more curved expression and body mechanics.
Right. And energy, there's energy. I think that, female and male energies are something that flow within us. Some people more than others. Some people can pull it off very well, but other people can't.
Right.
Because, all of their lives have had to fight that feminine urge so they won't get ridiculed. So imagine 40, 50 years fighting these things and then all of a sudden trying to get rid of the other. It doesn't work, But the main thing here, and what I'm seeing, and I'm seeing a lot in the trans community, is that they lack being proud of who they are. They want to be something else so badly at all costs.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work. It doesn't work because in the end, no matter what we do, it comes back and bites us in the ass.
I mean, like you were talking about early in your transition, you were very much in that line of thought where you were like, I'm transitioning from, this is gone, it's over, that was in the past, this is now, I'm a man, I live and express myself, and I look and appear as much as a man as anyone else. And, what happened?
Your inner voice, there's like this little voice inside your head, your conscious, you want to call it, that, doesn't let you forget your past, doesn't let you forget who you are. If we DNA in your cell, as much as you want to just say no, comes out, it's just something that, if you want true happiness, and this is advice for any trans person, whether you're just beginning or you've been a trans person, living as a trans person for years, in order to reach pure happiness, you have to accept who you are. And you can't continue to want the impossible. Doesn't matter how many surgeries you do, how many cosmetic procedures get done, how many years of hormones you're on, you can't run away from your base. And if you do try to, you're going to quickly find out that you can, and you will always be depressed, anxious, angry, fearful. And those are feelings that there's no need, to have those feelings. If you accept who you are, and somebody asks, hey, yeah, I'm trans. After I realized who I was and that what I could not be, I became at peace with myself.
Yeah.
And that is the only way I found true happiness. I have no problem coming out to anyone and telling them, hey, I'm trans. I was born female. You know, and that was my happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Because before it was that constant, oh my God, I'm going to find out. I'm going to see my little feet. Oh, my little hands. Oh my God, you know, I don't have an Adam's apple, blah, blah, blah. And that, you know, that constant, we call it sihilio, you know, that constant, what's the word sihilio in English? That constant stress or that constant fear of being thought out is horrible for your health.
Yeah.
You know?
It really is. And, you know, it's really the lowest, like I wrote in my post, after reading what she had said and commenting some on her wall in that thread, it's the lowest possible definition that can be placed on being a trans woman. I mean, she, like I said, she's just about the same age as me, and she finds nothing wrong in what she's doing. I mean, but I find everything wrong with it, you know? I mean, because, again, she's not only putting herself in danger, but all the rest of us. Why does she have to add more fuel to the fire? Here's what I said. I told her this. I just decided to take a look at some of the profiles of people commenting on this thread and what they look like. What many of you choose to depict to showcase who you are and all is what I see is an overwhelming obsessive, fetishistic tone to what many of you want to be seen as. Like, you know, there was one that had like this tight shot of lips and a finger with lipstick in front, you know, lipstick lips in front, and, you know, just very sexualized, you know? I mean, it's like, it's almost like what men think women are like. It's like,
or should be.
Or that they should be.
Yeah, because
right.
They're creating, you know, that fantasy in their head.
So it's like, I wrote, it's disgusting to me to no end. I'm not perfect myself. And I've walked through that AGP phase, but I'm so thankful to say that I grew up. It, you know, it wasn't long before I was able to grow up and grow out of that. Many of you still have Barbie dreams and teenage awareness and maturity. It seems like you want to show the sultry side of the sexualization of the female, and it seems to have many of you so ensnared and fascinated. It's like that's what being a woman is supposed to be about. It's like, okay, well, if I transition and I wait a year, then I'm going to have to budget the boob job because every woman has boobs, and the only way that I can pass is if I have a boob job. And it's like, no, the way that you might even be seen as more of a freak is by getting a boob job.
Yeah.
Some of you, unfortunately, that's the hard truth and reality of the matter. Doesn't matter what kind of FFS you do, and SRS is not visible, so nobody really cares. And, you know, I mean, as far as visually, you know, walking around goes, but breasts,
you stand out more because now they see this man-looking thing walking around with broad shoulder and huge boobs. And the boobs aren't going to make the person go, oh, that's a female. No, they're going to see right through you. I mean, it's a given. It's not trying to be mean or anything like that.
No, it's not. But it's like if you have like these broad shoulders,
right.
What trans women would tell me was like, if you have broad shoulders, then you just need a bigger breast, you know, bigger implants because it makes you more proportional. But the thing is that the proportional thing doesn't work because you're already out of proportion.
Yeah.
I mean, you already broke the rule for being a female by having such a broad shoulder, you know. And, you know, if you add breast to that broad shoulder, now you just look like a giant size depiction of something that to the eye, instinctually, you think of women as being more petite, smaller frame, smaller bodies. I mean, of course, it's not for the, like, it's not across the board.
No, there are women that have
we saw that video of that
and
woman that that was lying down in the Prius. Remember we watched that camping video?
6 foot something, but you could still tell that she was a woman.
Right.
As 6 foot tall as she was, as everything. It's just, you know, unfortunately, transitioning later on in life makes it very difficult. And it's a reality that I think needs to be put out there, specifically with the gender specialists when they're talking to people, and let them know how realistic things really are.
Exactly. And I said, I'm over all that. I know that I'll never be a genetic woman. I mean, it's not possible. That's okay with me. I know that I'm not a regular man either. I'm happy and content to be me. And that is something that I get to define for myself. No one needs the gender box stereotype. We need to learn to break free from it and to not let it have any power over us. Become an ally to regular women. Don't try to one-up them. We are trans and we are special. We are trans women, trans men, and we should own it. Not pretend that our past does not affect who we are today. Trans women, trans men, we all need to step up and stop allowing for ourselves to be shamed right out of existence. Unfortunately, behaviors exhibited by this person and many others in the community nullify who it is that we truly are. We need to help educate those trans brothers and sisters who are looking for support and encouragement to look elsewhere than what this person seems to be unashamedly promoting. This is not what being a trans woman or trans man is all about. It's not about seeing how many guys or girls you can sleep with or how you can stealthily hide the truth of who you are. In my opinion, if you can't be honest with people about who you are, then who are you anyway? This is the truth. Be kind, be loving, seek to grow as an eternal spirit and not be bound by gender, and most importantly, be honest and seek to spread love and light to everyone that you meet. That is the true metamorphosis that can take place when one decides to transition. This whatever it is that she's doing is artificial and narcissistic and so unnecessary. And in the end, it serves destructive purposes for all of us in the trans community.
Oh, definitely. And, you know, I suggest before anyone transitions, before anyone decides to have any surgery, even to take hormones, get to know yourself, get to know that inner you, and feel free to express the you that you feel you are inside. Gender is not about taking a male or a female box. Gender is about a spiritual energy source that we all have inside of us. Some of us have a duality, two-spirited. Some of us are a little bit more masculine and we are feminine, or vice versa. When you get to know that true you, when you don't define yourself by a gender ticking box of male or female, or article of clothing, or big muscles, or trying to get rid of your muscles if you're an MTF, when you don't define yourself by these characteristics that society has set out for you, then and only then will you get to know who you truly are, and then no one will be able to define you, and then you won't be placed in a box. You know, but unfortunately, this community is all about this materialistic realm of who you think you should be, and it's failing. It's not working because honestly, how many people really are happy? I mean, every time I see the news feed of all my trans friends that are on Facebook, I'm seeing people complain how miserable, how much in pain they are, and not just emotional pain, but physical pain, because they're getting sick. Why? Sickness comes from an imbalance in yourself. You're not happy, so it's going to come out in all sorts of ailments and diseases. So you need to stop letting the mirror dictate your happiness, letting an article of clothing keep moving. An article of clothing define you, you know, because it'll never get you anywhere, and you'll never really find true happiness. Anyway, enough of that about all of that. But you know, I hope the community matures one day. You know?
I do too. I mean, I can understand initially where people are at and how they're fascinated with their changes and everything else, but you got to really look at the big picture. You got to look at the long haul, the long run. You know, the end game. I mean, it's not all like
there's no trophy,
candies and rainbows and
it's not a trophy that we're going to get. There's
campaign.
not going to be a miracle thing. All of a sudden you start, you're going to end up in the end after all the years and go, voila, I'm done. You're not some factory production. You know, it's like, it's just living in your element, being happy with who you are and expressing. If that means you like to wear more feminine clothing, then go for it. You know, if that means you want to wear more masculine clothes, if you're an FTM and you want to just present yourself in that more of a masculine energy, but to magically think that we could just change ourselves from one gender and the other because we take hormones, because we get surgery, that's absurd. The sooner you learn that and the sooner you understand that, the happier you will be. If not, you got to be chasing your tail like a dog and never capturing that tail and being unhappy for the rest of your life. Because to this day, there's still no perfect surgery, whether it's FFS or whether it's SRS, to change one gender into another. In fact, we're pissing a lot of cis people off because of that, because they're saying, well, I'm just as much of a woman as, you know, as a regular woman. It's like, no, I'm sorry, there's a difference. You know, there is a difference, and the sooner you understand that and are okay with that, instead of trying to compete with the other gender, the happier everyone will be.
Well, we have a message from Desiree. She says, hello, good topic. I've watched some videos about passing. I feel like too much emphasis is put on this. And Desiree also says,
I'm a 45-year-old, what's AF?
female
Birth, assigned, okay. I've had a high level of many years now, T level for many years now. I identify as a woman, gender nonconforming woman. I see myself as a mix of masculine and feminine. And I think a lot of people nowadays are actually becoming more gender fluid because it's who we are as a human race. I don't think there's anyone completely all male and completely all female. We're complicated, you know?
There's more to us than just putting us here or here.
And then, you know, religion, society that tries, oh, you're either male or you're female, and that causes problems. And I think that's a major problem that we're seeing in the world today. It's like we battle our inner instinct. So we think, well, I'm a different kind of man, so I must be a woman. Or vice versa. And that, you know, in the end, as time progresses and as when you're done with all your surgeries, there's nothing else that you can do. There's not enough hormones that you can put in your body that's changing you. And you're going to say, I just put myself at risk health-wise because that's what hormones do. The more you take, the more in danger you're going to put yourself in. And all the surgeries. And at the end, you're not solving anything, really.
But, you know, I mean, I don't want to be the devil's advocate, but I'm just trying to focus my thoughts on how I feel about it. I know that I was born male and everything. I know that I lived as a male and everything. I know that I procreated as a male and everything. But just because I did those things doesn't define me as a male in the traditional sense of being male. Because if everything was the way it's supposed to be, I wouldn't have had the conflicting issues of gender that I had. And what I'm trying to say is that I think it's okay for people to understand that they're not quite male or they're not quite female. They're kind of in between, and that they are actually unique and different than the traditional male-female box.
Now, the question is, why would, like the way you said, you were, you know, raised male, you had kids as a male, and you still don't see yourself quite male. Why do you think that is? I mean, there's something in this big puzzle of gender questioning and gender, you know, confusion that people face. Why do you think that is? Is it society that says, okay, all males have to be this way, all females have to be this way? You know, so if you don't fit into that box, because there's something that happened in all of us during childhood years that created this trauma.
Well, I don't know if it's just the trauma and the childhood years. I know that there are contributing circumstances, of course, obviously traumatic instances. But I mean, I'm not going to deny that there could be just a role that we're assigned by the universe to perform. You know, that if we were just normal, regular, different people have different purposes in the universe, you know, and the majority of people get along great in a male-female box world, you know.
Right.
But there are those of us that were made to be unique and special, different,
Right, but
with a
that,
different purpose.
right, but that I don't think that has to be assigned to gender. I think that different purpose. I mean, I think society sees everything black and white, and so we look at gender and we see everything black and white. But I don't think that particularly has to be assigned to a gender. I think that being unique is wonderful. I mean, let all the unique people step up in the world and and raise their flags. But when we make gender, especially transgender people, do that, the whole soul thing about them is very destructive, not only to themselves, but the rest of the
I
world.
honestly think that if we stop focusing so much on gender,
Yes.
if we stop focusing, like, we're going to get into another topic here in a minute about materialism and addictions to money and things and stuff.
Yeah.
It's the same principle that goes for that, that goes for gender. This obsession that we have over gender, this obsession that we have over money, all these things can be corrected and adjusted to flow normally if we would just put the priorities in the right things, so that so that it doesn't matter, so that money doesn't matter, so that gender doesn't matter.
And one of the reasons I believe that people think gender matters, material things matter, is because they're too afraid to look within. And so they look for external fixes. Well, my life is not good enough, and I've been made fun of all my life, so I'm going to change my gender, and that's going to make everything A-okay. Or I'm going to go to the store, and I'm just going to buy to my heart content.
In nature, there's only one mirror, and that is when you look at your reflection in a lake or a body of water. But nature itself doesn't provide a mirror for us to look at.
Yeah,
it doesn't, like, you can't go up to a tree or a rock or grass and see a reflection in it. And if we were meant to be so focused on this outer frame of us, then the universe would have designed us in a way that we could see outside of ourselves, like an eye on our finger or something, to look back at us.
And we're not.
But I'm visually here so that you see me. You're visually here and I see you.
Exactly. I can't see myself unless
you can't see yourself.
You look at the camera or the screen.
Even in a mirror, you're looking at yourself backwards.
So what do you think? I mean, interesting topic or interesting point about when we get to a body of water, we see our reflection. A body of water represents cleansing, cleaning. So the only time we actually see our reflection is when we're getting ready to either drink water, to cleanse and hydrate ourselves, or to bathe in this body of water. So there's, to purify. So, I mean, that's an interesting point there, a very spiritually minded statement that I just made. Your reflection is something for you to work on your inner spiritual self, not on becoming narcissist. That's where the word narcissism came from. Narcissist saw his reflection for the first time and thought how beautiful he was, and it was all about him. So, I equate a lot of narcissism with the trans community.
And the trans community is obsessed with the image of self. I mean, the mirror is their God, basically. They are selfie kings and queens. And validation. Validation becomes their seal of approval. It's not good enough that they're living their life as they want to live, wearing the skimpy dresses and the heels and all the stuff that they wear to validate them. They need that validation from people outside of them. And if they don't get it, the world gets turned upside down. And that's, I think, that part of having this issue with gender dysphoria is a product of modern society. Exactly. The older, more ancient cultures, the indigenous peoples that honored the two-spirited individuals, the different types of gender that were represented, they understood it on a much more deeper level. They thought that these individuals who had a connection both with the feminine and the masculine, all wrapped up in one person, could actually help the tribe to, settle quarrels and disagreements, things that they wouldn't quite see eye to eye on. And these people, these two-spirited individuals, would be able to give them wisdom that they never were able to manufacture for themselves or to find out for themselves, because they had and like a portal into another part of humanity, of eternal, you know,
We're in
reality.
touch with our duality. If you look at how we get electricity, if you have a plug, you can't receive an electricity if you remove one of the prong and just put one into the electrical outlet. You need both to be able to have electricity flow. And that's the same thing that happens with human beings. Spirit is not a one-track by one polar type of thing. It requires both prongs, both energy, male and female, the yin and the yang, in order for things to flow. And I think that's what we're here to do on this planet, is to learn how to balance both our yin and our yang.
Yeah.
You know, totally.
It is.
So on the topic of stuff, materialistic things, you know, this particular, and I'll share the actual picture here so that folks can see what we're talking about. Share. Spot the addict, it says, you know, lies, they steal, ruin other people's lives, anything to get a hold of more. You know, drug addict, alcoholic, anybody with any kind of addiction. And this addiction also stems from money as well. You got
lies and steals and ruins and other people's lives, anything to get hold of more, including running over people on the corporate ladder, lying, cheating, doing whatever you can to get more.
Yeah.
And for me, I encountered that a lot as a freelancer, because it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. And if you were the best bullshitter, you got the most clients. And if you were able to do better than the other person and to kind of like set them up to fail somehow or something, then you look better, you know, and you got more clients, you got more money. And that was the name of the game a lot of times.
And that's what we're taught from the time we're little, competition, you know. He with the most toys wins, and keeping up with the Joneses, and, you know, you become addicted to stuff. You know, it's like the new iPhone comes out, you have to have it. You may not have any food in the fridge, but you're going to do whatever it takes, lie, steal, cheat, to get that phone. And that mentality is the mentality that the television, all the advertisers, even when you go to school, they teach you.
And that, you know, you said about the iPhone, that I have my own personal experience there. I was obsessed with the iPhone. I was reading blogs about it and videos that were online talking about when it was coming out, if Apple was going to have a phone. Then finally, when it did come out,
it's that same
obsession to have it.
Yeah.
So I was on this job where I was traveling from my home in Minnesota to go all the way to like close to Toronto, Ontario. And I had to have the iPhone. I didn't have the network for it because I was on another network. I was on Sprint. So there was really no reason to go to AT&T because I still had a contract, but I had to buy it. So I stopped in the middle of my journey, went to the Chicago Apple store, waited in line, paid like $700 for this thing, and bought it. Couldn't use it.
What difference is that when people become obsessed with transitioning, and all they do is all day long watch videos about transition, and they have to have that boob job, and they have to do it's the same. So there's something going on in the neurological system with people in this world today that's affecting how they think, how they feel, their gender, and everything.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but I was addicted to things from an early age. I mean, I was taught to like things, and I took it to an extreme.
Right. Because probably, I'm sorry to interrupt, probably you were rewarded with things whenever they wanted you to do something and you did what you were supposed to do, or if they didn't want to behave, look, if you behave well, I'll give you this. So quickly one learns, things.
And you know what? That's exactly what it was, because I know that, you know, my mom would entice me to come to Kmart or to grocery store, and she would buy me something.
If
If
you
I
come,
went,
I'll buy
I'll buy you an icy.
Yeah.
You know, I'll buy you a toy car or
Yeah.
something. You know, I mean, it's like,
And you got taught.
yeah.
It was like, it's a dog. Rings the bell, salvage, knows a piece of steak is coming. It's a Pavlov effect.
And I remember that very vividly. When my grandfather died back in 1982, I wanted to go to Puerto Rico to be able to visit and stuff, and to go to the funeral. And she said, "Well, we can't afford it, but if I buy you this big action figure toy thing, will you be fine?"
She taught you. It's like a programming.
And it was.
But it's not just you. It's like everyone in America, everyone that, you know, even in my island, because people, it's like they see other people have things and they think, if I've got this, I'll be happy. And I'll be a whole person if I do this and the other. And it's like happiness doesn't come from what you buy, from changing your gender, from doing anything. Happiness comes from within. Happiness comes from living in the now and knowing your worth and loving other people and giving to other people. I mean, it's very simple, but we complicate things.
We do, and it's been structured to do that because corporations have gotten us addicted to consumerism and use it to control us. They're like our drug dealers and pimps. Go cold turkey by moving into a van, this article says, because that's what we're doing. We're moving into a Prius. So we've been reading these articles. And become a van dweller. Today I want to continue on with the idea the article writer says. His name is Bob Wells. He has this website called cheaprvliving.com, and he's been on the road for like 12 years, living out of his van. And because this is a very abusive society, and we need to make every effort to run away from it as fast as we can. As I said before, society becomes our abuser in the guise of pretending to take care and control over our lives for our own good, to save and protect us. Their methods of doing that are
education. Starts off when you're a little weaky little baby, or you go into preschool, kindergarten, from the age of 6 and anymore. It starts as early as age 3 or 4. Society takes control of our minds and what we think and how we think it. The educational establishment, whether private or public, is devoted to making us good, productive citizens, and not you consider lazy. In other words, slaves and robots to promote the good of the government and corporations. We gladly and willingly go along with the idea because we've been brainwashed into believing whatever is good for the government and corporations must be good for us in the long run. We can't live without them, of course.
The media, in the same way, from the moment our eyes open and we learn to speak, we are inundated with extremely well-designed and crafted messages of all kinds to convince us to obey and conform to society's rules and to work hard and to buy more stuff. A need to buy and own more, newer, bigger, and better things is instilled deep into our hearts and souls. Of course, we gladly go along and buy all that stuff on credit, making the corporations rich, selling it to us, and the banks rich, loaning the money. Of course, at our interest rate.
Yeah.
Then we have to pay it all back, all that debt. So we're forced to work harder, longer, and for less to keep feeding our addiction to consuming. That was me.
We are both the tools of production and slavish consumer of the things we produce to feed their addiction for more money and riches. Essentially, we've turned into wage slaves, ants that are working in a colony or drone bees in a hive. Every day we go through the motion of lusting for more things and working to make someone else rich in order to get them. We're nothing but living, breathing machines, tools to make the corporation rich and give the government more power to control us. For your protection, of course. We are both the tools of production and slavish consumers of the things we produce to feed their addiction for more money and riches.
First, they create our addiction for buying more and more things. Then they use that addiction to control and enslave us, all for the purpose of giving them power over us and to use us as their workhorses and tools to get rich and powerful.
And they've done it very well. I mean, it's like we see it, you know, all these malls that go up and everybody, it's like, it's just a crazy addiction. Luckily, I'm no problemo on that department ever. I mean, my mom tried to raise me very materialistic, and you have to have certain things, and you have to have certain, you know, a diploma and all this stuff. But I always fought it because I knew deep in my heart it was wrong. Of course, being addicted to buying more things is not satisfying. So we buy more, and that doesn't make us happy. So we buy even more, and that equally hollow and empty. Then the emptiness of it all makes us even more miserable. So being good addicts, we do what all addicts do. We buy even more, going into even more debt, and are even more unhappy than ever. Because you buy when you're upset, you buy when you're happy. Or, you look at not only buying stuff, food has that same hold on people.
It's an emotional connection.
Yeah, and it's like, it's constant and constant, you know?
And the downward spiral continues. Having gotten us addicted to buying things, they use our basic unhappiness to create a hunger for more, bigger and better things to relieve some of our pain. But like all addictions, it never does. And when we run out of money to buy more, they offer it to us on easy credit.
Yeah.
Easy credit. They convince us that credit/debt is wonderful and for our own good. So we embrace it with our whole heart, running up astronomical debt. They actually will encourage a person to have a credit card to preserve their credit rating.
And if you don't use it, they actually eliminate that credit card, which is done with me. Because I have like 3 credit cards, and one of them I never use. So if I didn't use it, they're like, "We're sorry, you haven't used your credit card in so long. We are disabling the account."
Yeah.
You know, so they want you to be in constant debt. And me, I hate that. I just, you know, I walk on my elbows. You know, I am the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Frugal person I know. If I don't need it, because I don't buy things because I want them. I buy things because I need them. You know, and that's how I've been able to keep the credit and be the person that I am, you know. Government and corporations become our drug dealer and pimp, using our addiction to buying more things on debt to control every tiny aspect of our lives and forcing us to put up with their abuse.
We'll do anything for our next fix of an iPhone or a new car. Hate your job and your boss? Doesn't matter. You'll stay and put up with it anyway because you bought all that crap on credit, and so you can buy even more junk on credit. You are a slave to your master. That huge debt.
Buying things is much more addictive to the masses than heroin, meth, or crack could ever be. Ultimately, we all wake up to the horror of those addictions and try to break free of them. But buying stuff rarely loses its allure and fascination to us. We'll just keep selling ourselves to get more. No amount of abuse is too much to get that new thing.
We become prostitutes working for our pimp, but instead of selling our bodies for sex, we sell our time and life energy. The most important things in our life, and the only thing that we truly own in this whole world, and they've wrestled it away from us and made us grateful to them for doing so. Worst of all, because of the Stockholm Syndrome, most of us try to stop anyone else who wants to escape.
Yeah. Call us conspiracy nuts, and like my mother doesn't get me at all.
No.
She thinks I'm crazy doing what we're doing. And I've done this many a times before. She thinks I should have never given up my occupational therapy license, that I should be working in a hospital or whatever, you know, doing things.
For the system.
Yeah, doing things that I dislike. And it's like, I'm sorry, but I'm not you. You know, she held the same job, put up with her boss sexually harassing her, and all the stuff she put just to get a pension. You know, I don't operate that way. Sure, they give us an amazing amount of freedom in exchange, but they've managed to get the most important thing in our lives, our time and life energy. They own those. Since we belong to them, they can sell us to their corporate buddies to make them rich as their slaves. I mean, people do get a vacation once or twice a year. The weekend they're off. The rest of the time, they're like grinding on that, you know, whatever the word's called. And
the work week.
Yeah, their time is not theirs. You know, people barely have time to do laundry, to do groceries, and, you know, you have a bunch of kids. I mean, it is not living, folks. That's not life. I'm sorry.
The federal government and the Federal Reserve is the head pimp and dealer in chief. The corporations are their dealers, standing on the corners. What are we going to do about this horrible mess? There's only one thing to do, and that's to run far, far away, as fast as you can. Just go cold turkey and drop out of that stinking sewer of greed and corruption.
How, you may ask? Well, the best and only way I know is to spend a brief period of time working in the system, but stop buying any more of their heroin of things. Go cold turkey and buying stuff. And buy a van or things you'll need for your new life. Finally, build up as much of an emergency fund as you can, then move into the van and hit the road. For the rest of your life, buy and own as little as possible so that you can work as little as possible and be free. Your goal is to regain the most valuable thing that you have ever had or ever will have, your time and life energy. Time plus life energy equals freedom.
Now, your mom, my mom would say that time and life energy equals what? Equals a house.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a house. I'm owned too.
Time and
Actually,
life energy equals a full-time job.
Yeah.
Time and life energy equals a pension.
Yeah.
But time plus life energy truly equals freedom.
Yeah.
And when you don't have freedom, what do you have?
You've got nothing. You're just a slave. People think that slavery has ended. It's still going strong, folks. Thing is, you don't have the shackle around your ankle, because the shackle is actually the material world, because they know you want that stuff. You're salivating at the mouth to have all the stuff that you want. So they know they dangle this stuff in front of you, and you're going to go work, and you're going to work for hours, and you're going to do whatever it takes. And then they show you this little credit card, and you're like, okay, I could put this on credit. Before you know it, that thing is damn packed to the gills, and then you can't keep up. Then you go in debt, and you have to go bankrupt.
And then you look at those lists, that the charts that show if you pay the monthly minimum every month, you'll be out of debt in 17 years.
Yeah. And
it's like, and in the meanwhile, at the interest rates that they're charging you,
not stupid.
They've been making money off of you. I mean, the whole reason that television even was created, the radio was created, was to put these advertisements on, to bait people, to get people to buy stuff, to, you know, I mean, it started with catalogs from Sears and the different, you know, companies and stuff that were mid-1800s and stuff. And then after that, they created a whole Christmas season for people to buy stuff. And, you know, this whole holiday season has become even bigger. And, you know, all this, you know, it's just crazy.
It's crazy. And meanwhile, more and more of our rights and freedoms are being taken away. Of course, all for your protection. We're going for a run today, and we see a sign on the beach, a beach that is made by the universe for us to enjoy.
Miles and miles of it.
Yeah, it's like no tenting, no tents or alcohol allowed on the beach. Well, right across the street from the beach, there are a bunch of restaurants that sell alcohol. They're allowed to sell that alcohol, but you can't drink alcohol, bring your own, and hang around in a tent, in a chair, enjoying the beach with a couple of beers or a glass of wine or whatever. No, 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 no. If you do that, you're going to go to jail, because they're not allowing that to happen. But you could have that same alcohol across the street.
Yeah.
How hypocritical is that? Exactly. How hypocritical is that? It's because the world's being run by lobbyists, the world's being run by corporations, and we're just mere slaves. We're told what to do all the time. It's time to break those chains, folks. It's like my album, Enslaved, CD Baby. Google Mark Angelo, Enslaved. Support my music. That album has a lot of stuff that I really shared with people.
Quite prophetic, actually.
Yeah, yeah. So, been really trying to advocate a lot for anti-animal products. Do not consume animal products. Do not buy things that are made from animal hide or in animal testing, they have the same right as you to live and love this planet. You know, we're just creating all this terrible karma.
Yeah,
you know?
we're just watching this video the other day, and these people that are taking off on a van, this guy, and he picks up people and travels with them and stuff. They're down in Mexico, Baja California. And they were like out fishing with some local farmers, local fishermen and stuff, and a family caught octopus or something and other kinds of fish, you know, whacking the fish on the head to kill it so that they can eat it, and twisting the heads off of the octopus, and they're squealing from the pain. And it's like people are like tough. They're at the bottom of the food chain. They should be eaten. But you know what? We're the only species of animal that kills animals for sport.
Yeah.
Even a shark only kills when it's hungry.
Yeah.
What? A bear kills when it's hungry, or when it's been provoked.
And I'm sorry, folks, there's so many food out there. There's grains, there's beans, legumes, there's rice, there's potatoes, there's all sorts of vegetables and fruits for us to consume without having to hurt another living being to eat our food. In fact, we're not meant to eat any of that stuff. Anyway, there's an article called Consequences of Meat Protein on Human Behavior. So this is what your big steak does to you. Human beings use large numbers of animals for the food value of their meat proteins. The effects of these proteins can undoubtedly be seen as aggression, violence, hatred, and moral insensitivity. We can therefore say that meat has a negative effect on human behavior. That's right. The vegetarian, on the other hand, builds that foundation for an attitude of tolerance, gentleness, sociability, and a spirit of sharing. Experts speaking out against the use of meat proteins can now call on support from the chemistry of the neurotransmitters and from neurobiology, two scientific disciplines that explain how such foods cause certain human behaviors. As a result, we can now act with greater certainty in our food choices, which to prefer and which to avoid. Among other things, we should reject the idea that violence is innate in humans. No one is born aggressive or evil, but we can become so by eating meat.
Animal proteins listed on labels as meat come from the muscular tissue of land-based vertebrates, whose carcasses are used by human beings for food. To be specific, the animals are cattle, which includes oxen, buffalo, bison, deer, including roebucks, fallow deer, reindeer, camels, elks, dromedaries, goats, sheep, donkeys, horses, hares, rabbits, hedgehogs, hippopotamuses, kangaroos, and swine, pigs, wild boars. Humans also eat the flesh of marine vertebrates, fish. We should not forget that fish is really a kind of meat, and other aquatic animals, whales, frogs. And there is also meat from different types of birds, poultry, ducks, turkeys, ostriches, various game birds, emu, but the meat eater also cruelly kills and eats many invertebrates such as mollusks, octopus, cuttlefish, squids, limpets, snails, oysters, mussels, razor, and other clams, etc. Shellfish, freshwater fish, European lobsters, Dublin Bay prawns, crabs, squills, spiny spider crabs, echinoderms, sea urchins, holothurian trepangs. All these proteins. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
All these proteins take from the animal world means our absolute bloodbath, and it's not only unnecessary and morally repugnant, but also responsible for physical disease brought on by toxemia, even including cancer and psychological disorders brought on by the influence towards aggression. What we understand by the word meat is muscle tissue, which always contains saturated fats. The worst for human health. That's like, heart attack waiting to happen. Meat eaters also eat liver, pancreas, thymus, liver glands, kidney, or brain, organs not made up of muscle tissue. Additionally, meat eaters eat tripe, which is part of the complex stomach of ruminants, also many types of sausages, such as cooked pressed pork, spiced pork, bologna, ham, salami, frankfurters, stuffed pigs, and trotters, and so on. Meat eaters eat tongue and bovine tail muscles or sausage or dried salted beef or bacon and so on. Not to mention caviar, mallet roe, or as in China, dog meat, dear God, or a fowl or calf intestines. In short, a terrible massacre, a real Holocaust. That's the true Holocaust right there.
Eating such enormous quantities of animal proteins has a profound effect on human behavior. Generally, in nature, carnivorous animals are fierce and aggressive, while non-carnivorous ones are peaceful and sociable. Another thing that can be easily seen is the gradual reduction in aggression in human beings as they move from a diet containing large amounts of meat towards one excluding high-protein foods, especially meat. It is also well known that dogs, although carnivorous in nature, keep guard and attack strangers more effectively if they are fed larger than normal meat rations. Similarly, in wartime, when men are to take part in highly risky military action, they have to be given large meat rations so that the meat is used as a drug to develop aggression, violence, and moral insensitivity. In Homer's Iliad, for example, the warriors have meat-based banquets between one battle and the next. Seneca used to point out that among the big meat eaters, you could find tyrants, organizers of massacres, feuds and fratricidal wars, instigators of murder, slave traders, while those who fed on the fruits of the earth behaved gently. Liebig tells how the bear in Gießen Zoo became extremely restless and dangerous if forced to eat meat instead of vegetable food. We can say then that physical hygiene means mental hygiene, as J. Dalemont maintains when describing the history of human diet in his work, A Manual of Mental Hygiene. One more thing I want to add was that, the story of Cain and Abel. Abel was a guy who he sacrificed an animal, and Cain sacrificed the crop. But Cain was the one who was aggressive. But it's like it's kind of twisted there, because the guy who killed the animal is shown as being the gentle one, and the guy who sacrificed the best first fruits of his crop, then he was seen as being the tyrant. So it's confusing, because you would think that the aggressive one would have been Abel.
The one that killed the sacrifice. Yeah. Well, it's probably the way they changed it in the Bible. You know how the Bible is totally spun around. The slogan "meat means energy" is used by those who want to justify meat eating, because the society based on competition, free and unfettered competition, and social climbing demands we gear an aggressive scowl which will help us get on the world, win, or life struggles. These brief socio-biological references already allow us to state with certainty that meat has a negative effect on human behavior. We can say this because, as everyone can see, human beings are readily influenced by environmental factors, especially diet. An important truth encapsulated by the great Ludwig Feuerbach way back in 1855, when he famously said, "Der man ist was isst." Man is what he eats. You are what you eat. I've always said that. But more than a century earlier, in 1728, a distinguished Italian expert, Bartolomeo Beccari, doctor, chemist, and chemistry teacher at Bologna University, delivered the judgment, "Quid alias somus, nisi et und alimur." What else are we, if not what we eat? So, expressing what Feuerbach would say much later, it was not by chance that both these great thinkers were vegetarians. Beccari, among other things, discovered gluten is isovalencies between animal and vegetable protein. Man is not just an elementary canal to fill in with various food, but a thinking being whose brain, like any other part of the body, must be nourished with a material necessity for its metabolism that is delivered by the bloodstream. And since most of the food we eat is produced by a food industry concerned only with profits, without regard to our real dietary needs, we can say that just as an orthodox medicine is conditioned and financed by the pharmaceutical industry, so what is referred to as the science of nutrition is very much in the hands of the chemicalized food industry. So very true.
This is an industry that mainly seeks to sell junk foods, especially those based on meat proteins, with the powerful assistance of the media. Uncritical acceptance of the activities of the food industry leads inevitably to violent behavior towards our fellow humans and other living creatures because of the aggression induced by carcass food. As far back as 20 centuries ago, the great Juvenal Satyrus X X, 512, had pronounced on the close link between health of mind and body with his eternal saying, mens sana in corpore sano, a healthy mind in a healthy body. A healthy mind then requires a healthy body, which means that we should be making health of our body a priority. Much later in the 17th century, another authoritative voice, the British philosopher John Locke, in his work Some Thoughts Concerning Education, 1693, stressed the validity of Juvenal's saying about the health of the mind depending on that of the body.
So as that we see the great importance of vegetarianism, which detoxifies the body and purifies the blood supplied to the brain. Consequently, we are capable of more lucid and penetrating thoughts, leading to a real opening of the mind, with increased powers of self-control and the ability to withstand intellectual and physical work, initiating an attitude of tolerance, gentleness, openness to peaceful dialogue and solution of disputes, to love, sociability, and sharing.
Electrical activity in the brain is shown by EEGs has shown that vegetarian diet induces alpha waves, which indicate a state of neuromuscular relaxation, not just of the brain, but of the whole body. Leadbeater maintains that this scientific research proves the beneficial action of vegetarianism on behavior, in that it promotes a sense of well-being, analogous to the state of meditation on the most profound truths. This is why through the centuries, the most excellent, the most cultured, the most open, the most tolerant people in the world have been vegetarians in all fields of knowledge, in science, philosophy, art, literature, medicine, and so on.
It is clear then that the blood supply to the brain carries with it the meat catabolites. The brain's physiology is affected, and in the behavior we will note, I repeat, intolerance, the tendency to quarrelsomeness and aggression, hatred instead of love, separation, antisocial behavior, and violence instead of commentility and togetherness. In this way, humans get stuck in this antisocial attitude and fierce individualism, and those who want power need only divide and rule. Those in power know now to use the weapon of food to influence human behavior towards what is most convenient for their purposes. And so they do all they can to encourage us to eat dead, poisoned, intoxicating foods, especially meat. Ultimately, the target is the brain, which they want to render incapable of understanding.
In conclusion, while vegetarianism favors the highest cognitive faculties, carcasses depress them, encouraging behaviors damaging to the individual and society and reduce serotonin levels. A meal high in meat proteins reduces tryptophan levels in the brain, and so leads to aggression, anxiety, and propensity to fighting. Whereas the more we rely on the fruits of the earth and follow vegetarian principles, the more positive our behavior. Our choice of food then influences our behavior and emotions.
This is what Dr. Rossi says, and experimental confirmation for this has come from John Fernstorm and Richard Hartherman, biologists in the Department of Nutrition and Dietary Science at the Massachusetts Institutes of Technology. Serotonin, in fact, has a particular capacity to cause sleepiness. Some nutritionists against vegetarianism for various reasons, permissible or secret, maintain that aggression is not caused by meat proteins, but rather innate in humans. A ridiculous assertion, since no one is born aggressive and bad, but may become so under the influence of meat.
The well-known anthropologist Luigi Lombardi Satriani says that it is just an excuse for us to blame aggression on nature, an excuse we as a society use to escape our responsibilities. No one is born bad. Otherwise, aggression would be universal, which anthropology shows to be wrong. In fact, societies with absolutely nonviolent cultures have existed and still do. For example, certain tribes in Africa or groups of Indians in northwest Brazil or the Piaroa Indians in Venezuela have built very peaceful societies based on cooperation, without a trace of aggression in their children's upbringing. And the children's games reflect the balanced lifestyle, since they consist of dancing, singing, and love. Hatred is unknown, and it is common knowledge that these people are vegetarians. Do we need better evidence that diet influences the character?
You know, and also hormones. I mean, we are a very hormone-filled society. I think this is one of the reasons why we have all this gender confusion going on, you know, because it affects our behavior. I mean, they even talked about affecting sexuality and a whole bunch of different things. During the Gulf War in is that where we're at? Yeah.
We should not.
But we should not forget that the powerful used to flaunt their supposed superiority by ostentatiously eating meat, since they believed that meat, a dietary symbol of violence, was a badge to show that they belonged to the strong.
Oh, that's why Trump eats McDonald's.
Yeah. But in order to eat meat, there needs to have been an earlier violent act culminating in the killing of animals, so that meat eating, based on murder as it is inevitably associated with violence and brute force, whereas vegetarianism is based on the stability, tranquility, and serenity of the vegetable world, which in its powerful nobility draws life and strength from Mother Earth to give it to humanity. I was going to say that's one of the reasons they want to send all immigrants workers, so that they don't get to pick tomatoes and stuff, so that vegetable and fruit prices go up, so that people are forced to eat meat. So there'll be, you know. Professor Carlos Testori, a distinguished clinician and scientist, has brought to light how meat eating leads to aggression in humans, because phosphorus and calcium are to be found in meat in a ratio of 50-1. Meat eating leads to a phosphorus excess, which is not natural for humans, whose milk has a 1-to-2 phosphorus calcium ratio. Testori comments that this fact leads to a fall of calcium levels, leading to irritable and aggressive behavior and sometimes convulsions in small children and osteoporosis.
During the Gulf War in 1992, U.S. Marines getting ready to go into action were supplied with 50,000 turkeys, in addition to the normal abundant meat rations. The reason? They are soldiers and have to eat a lot of meat. In other words, they have to attack, and meat helps them become more aggressive. I will end my speech by quoting the well-known words of the philosopher Jacopo Moleschott, which confirms meat's aggressive influence. Quote, as long as the Irishman is fed with potatoes, he will be subjugated by the Englishman eating steak and roast beef.
That's pretty sad. Yeah, meat eating is terrible. Eating chicken, fish, and anything with a face. But some people believe, a lot of vegetarians believe, that it's okay to eat cheese and drink milk. Hey, animals aren't really being harmed, so they think. Just go to a dairy farm and watch what happens. Actually, I'll let you listen to somebody on a video here that I want to share with all of you. That kind of pretty much sums it up. Why can I? There we go. Yeah.
Alright guys, so since everyone's so busy these days, I'm going to explain to you how the dairy industry works in 5 minutes. Like other female mammals, cows only lactate, produce milk, when they're pregnant or have a newborn to feed. So the dairy industry inseminates or impregnates cows starting at the age of around 12 months over and over and over again, so they keep making milk. And it's a rather routine process. You see, first the industry jacks off a bunch of bulls, sometimes using a hand or help from an electro-ejaculator, which is basically a giant cow dildo that goes into the anus of the bull until he blows. And that semen is collected and then inserted into the vagina of a female cow with a long tube, usually while she's confined in what the industry calls a rape rack. And sometimes they put their fist right into the anus of the female cow, you know, to loosen the area.
To make the process as effective as possible. What are you feeling for in there when you're a bit jumpy? I think I would be if someone did that to me.
little bit, just relax everything, and let things go where it needs to go.
You must be responsible for a lot of cows.
Yep. And when that baby cow is born, it's pretty much immediately taken away from its mother and locked in a crate. Because if it stayed around mom, it would drink her milk. And that's shit for us. And you see, a mother cow's bond with her young is very strong and affectionate. And she sometimes cries out for days in search of her baby. But nobody gives a shit. If the baby's a male, his sperm is slit and he's sold for veal. And if it's a girl, she's raised to be a milk machine like mom. So dairy cows are continuously, repeatedly kept pregnant their whole lives to keep them lactating. This leads to premature aging, exhaustion, and mastitis, a painful yet common condition in dairy cows, which is inflammation and sometimes infection of the udder. Pus and blood in the milk of dairy cows is also common, so it's usually filtered. But not completely, because in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, up to 400,000 somatic cells are legally allowed in every milliliter of cow's milk. And in the United States, 750,000 somatic cells per milliliter. In Brazil, 1 million. And somatic cells, most of which in this case are white blood cells, do the same thing that erupt on the top of a big zit. So you could call it pus. The more bacteria, inflammation, and infection, the higher the somatic cell count. But don't worry, there's a limit. And when a dairy cow is finally too physically and emotionally exhausted to continue on, she collapses. These cows are called downers, and they are dragged out by whatever means to be killed and sold for beef. It's common in the industry, even on organic dairy farms, for cows to go down after about 4 or 5 years of continuous milk production. But peak milk production declines around 4 to 5 years anyways, so if the dairy cows are still standing, they're going to be killed for hamburgers and beef regardless. You see, the dairy industry is the meat industry. Almost every single dairy cow that you will ever buy milk that came from ends up being killed for meat. So if you're vegetarian, you might want to think about this, because at least when you're being raised for meat, you're just raised for meat and killed. But when you're a dairy cow, you are sexually exploited and emotionally and physically exhausted until you can't take it anymore, and then you're killed for meat. Sounds worse to me. And the natural lifespan of a cow that hasn't been completely exploited, 20 to 25 years, y'all. And as far as the calcium and protein thing goes, study after study after study has shown that those consuming the highest quantities of dairy actually have the highest cases of bone fracture and osteoporosis. And there are dozens of amazing plant-based sources of calcium and protein, so you really don't need to suck the tits of a cow. I mean, the dairy industry has wormed their way into education systems, nutritional programs, and media to convince us that we need to drink milk. But when you're in school learning about how good milk is for you, that's not because there was a panel of people who care about your health and determined that. That's because the dairy industry pays lots of money for you and your children to hear that message in school, and on TV, and on billboards, and magazines, and for your doctors who don't have to take more than a few hours of a nutrition course to tell you to drink your milk. You see, rhino milk is for baby rhinos. Dog milk is for baby dogs. Cat's milk for baby cats. Rat milk is for baby rats. And cow's milk is for humans? No, it's for baby cows. And vegans are crazy? Dairy is fucking stupid. Try almond milk, hemp milk, soy milk, flax milk, rice milk, Brazil nut milk, macadamia nut milk, cashew milk, any milk but dairy milk.
And if after seeing that you still have the urge to drink milk or eat beef, you have no heart or soul. I'm sorry.
I mean, that part where they say that the dairy cow is insulted with abuse from the time it's born to the time that it gets dragged off to be after suffering
for 4 or 5 years.
4 to 5 years.
Till exhaustion. I mean, you saw how they just like collapsed. Because, I mean, if you're on with that for 24/7, all the rest of, I mean, it's crazy. And then, you see the way they kick them and the way they mistreat them? I mean, it's like, do these people working for the industry have a heart?
No.
You know, it's like.
They don't. And if you drink milk, you support them.
Yeah, exactly.
If you eat cheese,
you support them.
You support them because the dairy industry, like she said, is the meat industry. Yeah. So you can't be a true vegetarian if you support these things.
Yeah, you can. I mean, technically, what they call vegetarian are people that still eat eggs and milk and cheese, and vegans are, we don't eat any animal product whatsoever, nothing. And vegetarians think they're doing a grand thing because they're not, but you're still contributing, as you saw in the video. I mean, so it's, you don't need to, there's so many types, there's even oat milk we just learned, you know,
yeah,
because,
mix water and oats.
Yeah, and just add a banana to it and saying you can make a, you know, milk product. I mean, after you are a certain age, you stop drinking milk from your mom's tits. That's it. It's over. You don't need to continue to drink milk. It's not normal. You're actually making yourself very sick. It's mucus causing. It causes osteoporosis because it mineralizes your bones instead of giving you calcium. It does the opposite.
And just think that the FDA allows for 750,000 infected disease cells in milk.
And you see why people that eat fat and drink milk and all that stuff, how their faces break out, how they get, you know, like huge. I mean, you get all this fat, it's because they're consuming all this stuff. So if you don't want to do it for the animals because you don't give a flying F, do it for your own health at least, you know? I know not everyone has the heart for protecting the animals, but if we don't protect them, we, the stewards of this planet, then who else will? I mean, I've eaten stuff in the past, even though I've never really liked it. I think I was born vegan because I hated meat and I hated all that stuff from the time I was a kid. But you're programmed to believe that that's what you're supposed to do. But it hurts my heart to know that I did that. And I am all for advocating now against any type of animal product abuse. Even the products that we use, our soap or shampoo, is not animal cruelty tested. It's like we try to be, you know, mindfully of these things because they are here to live a life as well as you or I, you know?
That's the truth. I mean, they're not here for our consumption.
No, not at all.
They're here to live life on this planet just like you.
It's pretty sad. Pretty sad. I mean, it breaks my heart dramatically. So the argument that most people try to give that we are meant to eat meat because we have canines. I mean, my canines are like, I wouldn't be able to bite anything off of a, you know.
No.
You want canine, you know, I'll show you what a true canine looks like. Okay? I'm gonna take a look at it. Canine. That's a canine right there. Big old huge, you know, things there, right? Or you got, and they're not even, you know, they mostly eat fruit and they eat like ants and things like that. But, you know, those are canines. You can do some stuff with that, you know?
And like sharks, they will,
I mean, that's just, folks, I'm sorry. If you didn't have the grocery store to go buy your stuff, I think most of you would starve to death, you know? It's crazy.
I was saying sharks have like teeth that replace themselves, you know, if they break off. And an unlimited supply, it seems, from what I understand, that if they break off the tooth, it grows another one in its place.
We don't.
We don't have that.
No, and we don't have the tongue. You know, when you have a cat and the cat licks, you go, damn, that's rough. Cats are carnivores, so are lions and tigers. And there's a reason they have that rough tongue, because they have to remove the hide. You know, we'd be in trouble. You know, because even without any weapons, you know, as we call it evolve, I think we've devolved and created tools. But we couldn't even catch half of the thing if we tried running after it or trying to wrestle with some. We'd starve because we're not meant. Our intestines are too long. We don't have the enzyme. But here, let's read a little bit.
We also have this inability to just chomp down.
Yeah.
Our jaw, it goes side to side.
Yeah, carnivorous animals, they just do this. It's like a piranha, you know, that kind of thing. Ours, you know, we're not. Sorry, not so much. One of the most common justification for eating animal the vegans encounter is, and here this all the time, if I wasn't meant to eat meat, then I wouldn't have these canine teeth. It's a knee-jerk defense that often made after a meat eater has been confronted with information about the routine cruelties of animal farming, or with what the facts are that humans have no biological need to consume meat, milk, or eggs.
But there are several serious problems with the canine teeth argument. The most glaring one being the premise that the presence of canine equals meant to eat meat. In truth, with the exception of rodents, rabbits, and pikas, nearly all mammals have canine teeth. In fact, several herbivores and primary plant eaters have ferocious canine teeth, as you'll see in the gallery below. The largest canine teeth of any land animal belong to a true herbivore.
Another problem with the canine teeth argument is that idea that just because we have physical attributes that enable us to do something harmful, we are morally justified to perform that activity unnecessarily and wherever we want. Humans are physically capable of inflicting all kinds of violence. If I wasn't meant to beat people up, I wouldn't have this big fist. But our capacity to harm others have nothing to do with whatever or not we are right to harm others. Indeed, most people would say it is wrong to cause harm when you can just as easily avoid doing so. And we can easily and drastically reduce the needless harm and suffering we cause to other animals simply by making different choices at the grocery store.
Not only do most mammals, including herbivores, have canine teeth, but the largest canine teeth of any land mammal belong to a true herbivore, the hippopotamus. Hippos are extremely territorial and aggressive. Their sword-like canines, which can reach a terrifying 16 inches in length, are used for combat and play no role in feeding. The hippo's diet consists of grass on which it grazes at dusk.
Gorillas are almost exclusively herbivores. Mountain gorillas prefer a diet of foliage, leaves, stems, pith, and shoots, and a small amount of fruit. Lowland gorillas also eat leaves and pith, but they eat more fruit and occasionally tiny ants and termites. Gorillas' giant canines have nothing to do with eating meat.
Reason number 3, your canine teeth don't make you a meat eater, the saber-toothed deer. Say hello to my little friend, the saber-toothed deer. You read that right. It's not Photoshop. It's just a tiny deer with giant fangs. Musk deer, as they're officially known, are herbivores who live in the forested mountains of southern Asia. They're around 2 feet tall, weigh between 15 and 37 pounds, and the male's elongated canine teeth form saber-like tusks, which they use in territorial disputes or when competing for mates. So, what kind of food do most deer tear into, those vicious canines? The menu is virtually gore-fest. Leaves, flowers, grasses, mosses, and lichens.
And reason 4, your canine teeth don't make you a meat eater, the gelada baboon. Geladas are the only primates who primarily eat grass. Grass blades make up to 90% of their diet. The rest consists of flowers, rhizomes, roots, herbs, small plants, fruits, creepers, bushes, and thistles. Insects may be eaten, but only rarely. Geladas use their sharp 2-inch canines to attack rival and potential predators.
Reason number 5, your canine teeth don't make you a meat eater. Camel fangs. Camels are herbivores with an average lifespan of 40 years. They eat foliage, dry grasses, and desert vegetation, mostly thorny plants. Sharp canine teeth in both the upper and lower jaws enable them to crush woody plants for food.
Reason number 6, your canine teeth don't make you a meat eater, the javelina. The javelina or peccary is a furry cousin of the pig found in the deserts of southwestern U.S. and the Central and South America. Primarily herbivores, javelina eat a variety of native plants, food including agave, mesquite beans, prickly pear, roots, tuber nuts, and other fruits and vegetation. Their spear-like canine teeth are used for self-defense and to Shred cactus pads, a primary source of nourishment. Thanks, little fur pig, for demonstrating once again that plenty of primary plant eaters have canine teeth, even huge, fierce, stabby ones, and are not large at all.
Reason number 7, your canine teeth will make you a meat eater. Comparative anatomy. In her new book, Mind If I Order the Cheeseburger? Sherry F. Cole discusses the comparative anatomy of carnivores, omnivores, and herbivores. Mammalian carnivores and omnivores share a number of physical attributes that make them well suited for killing and tearing apart their prey. They have a wide mouth opening relative to head size, a simple jaw point that operates as a stable hinge for effective slicing, but which is ill-suited to side-to-side motion, and dagger-like teeth spaced apart to avoid trapping stringy debris.
They also have sharp claws. The mammalian carnivores and omnivores additionally have huge stomachs that enable gorging, and an important capacity in animals who tend to average only about 1 kilo per week. These animals also have a very low gastric pH, which means their stomachs are very acidic, enabling the breakdown of highly concentrated proteins as well as killing of dangerous bacteria that typically colonize decaying flesh. We don't have that. You know, how some women I've seen can grow, but they don't.
Each of these traits enable the lion or bear to use her body to kill prey. Herbivorous animals, by contrast, have fleshy lips, a small mouth opening, a thick and muscular tongue, and a far less stable, mobile jaw point that facilitates chewing, crushing, and grinding. Herbivores also generally lack sharp claws. And these qualities are well adapted to the eating of plants which provide nutrients when their cell walls are broken, a process that requires crushing food with side-to-side motion rather than simply swallowing it in large chunks, the way that a carnivore or omnivore swallows flesh.
Herbivores have that digestive system in which the stomach is not nearly as spacious as the carnivores or omnivores. Our stomach is the size of our fist, a feature that is suitable for the more regular eating of smaller portions permitted with a diet of plants which stay in place and are therefore much easier to chase down rather than the sporadic gorging of a predator on his prey. The herbivore stomach also has a higher pH, which means that it is less acidic than the carnivores or omnivores, perhaps in part because plants ordinarily do not carry the dangerous bacteria associated with rotten flesh. The small intestine of herbivores are quite long and permit the time-consuming and complex breakdown of the carbohydrates present in plants.
In virtually every respect, the human anatomy resembles that of herbivorous animals, such as the gorilla and the elephant. More than that of the carnivorous and omnivorous species. Our mouth openings are small. Our teeth are not extremely sharp, even our canines, quote unquote, whatever that means, and our lips and tongues are muscular for kissing. Yes. Our jaws are not very stable and would therefore be easy to dislocate in a battle with prey, but they are quite mobile and allow the side-to-side motion that facilitates the crushing and grinding of plants.
Our stomachs are only moderately acidic, a fact that becomes salient around Thanksgiving, when even slightly undercooked dinners of turkey flesh result in many cases of food poisoning from the illness-causing bacteria that easily survives in our stomach. I had problems with pork, uncooked pork. Like herbivores, way back in the day when I used to eat all that stuff. Like herbivores and unlike carnivores and omnivores as well, we have long, small intestines, enabling the digestion of complex carbohydrates, a process that begins in our mouth, where we, like the committed herbivores, have carbohydrate digestive enzymes as well.
Does any of this mean that people are incapable of eating and digesting animal products? Of course not. With weapons to kill animals, we do not need dagger teeth, and with the fire to cook flesh, we can usually avoid the pitfalls of a stomach that is ill-equipped to kill the pathogens that populate wild flesh.
Despite our flexibility in accommodating animal-based foods, however, it has nonetheless remained clear that we are anatomically well-suited for plant-based eating. Animal-based foods are unnecessary for us, and they carry significant costs of risk. While it's beneficial to have complex plant carbohydrates slowly make their way through our very lengthy intestines, the same cannot be said for having meat rotting in our intestines for extended periods of time, causing cancer and all sorts of stuff.
However much people may enjoy eating animal products, then nature does not unambiguously commit us to or reward us with good health for consuming them. Our nature is quite different from that of lions, and our choices about what we eat are accordingly far more flexible and correspondingly susceptible to moral scrutiny. Where we have another choice, indeed a more healthful choice, for which our anatomy and physiology amply equip us, we cannot simply invoke nature to justify what we do. It is true that we could not reasonably accuse lions of acting immorally in consuming animals, but simply put, we are not lions.
We are not. So, much more. I think this is way too long, but you all get the picture. You know, we don't have canines. It's not.
Well, many people insist that eating animals is natural and therefore morally neutral because other animals are animals. But it's more important to recognize that with a few exceptions when humans kill other animals for food, we're not doing what animals do in nature.
Humans have no biological need to consume meat or any animal products to be healthy. When an animal kills other animals for food, they do it as they must in order to survive. They have no choice in the matter. Many humans, on the other hand, do have a choice. And when people with ample access to plant-based foods choose to consume animal anyway because they can or because they like the taste of it, they are not killing from necessity as animals. And some humans in crisis or subsistence situations do, whether we're talking about a lion taking down a water buffalo or a human in some remote or impoverished location with no alternative to eating animals. These are acts of survival and do not equate to nor justify the unnecessary exploitation of killing of animals for profit and pleasure.
Farmed animals are individuals with distinct personalities and emotions, just like our own cats and dogs. They feel affection, they form deep friendships, they long to be safe and happy, and to be free from fear and pain. Most of all, they share in common with us the desire to go on living. When we have access to plant-based foods and understand that we have no need to consume animal products, then the question of eating animals really comes down to this basic question. When able to freely choose, would you rather cause needless harm and suffering or refrain from doing so?
Yeah, I mean, there's really...
And it is a moral issue, because it is immoral knowing that you have ample availability of grains and vegetables and fruit.
Yeah, there's so much.
You could go to the grocery store, you could grow stuff in your own backyard. You could grow plants in your apartment. You know?
The benefit of it, I mean, I'm down 116 pounds, and we eat carbs like crazy. I mean, I sit down and make this big stew with pasta, rice, grains, potato, I mean, all of it in one. Different kinds of vegetables. You know, big old bowls we eat tortilla, that I bake them every night. We eat bread. We eat.
Yeah, we eat a feast.
We eat a feast 4 times a day we eat. And I'm down 116 pounds and you're down to 150. You know, so carbs don't make you fat. What makes you fat is fat and animal flesh. That will definitely put on the weight. We kind of we've got a couple more things I don't really want to go over because we've been doing the show for an hour and 45 minutes, but I did want to talk about, there's people that say, well, if you eat not all farms mistreat animals, you know, many of the worst cruelties inflicted on animals in factory farms are also routine practices on small free-range farms. These include sexual violation, exploitation of the reproductive system. This includes systemic sabotage of motherhood, routine mutilation without anesthesia, denial of instincts and preferences, You know, it goes on and on and on. No different. They still do the same thing, and they try to pass it and fluff it off as, you know, like it's nothing, but there's no humane way of killing an animal.
Blood is getting spilled. It's gory. It's gross. It's disgusting. And just because you don't do it in your kitchen or in your backyard doesn't mean that it's deplorable.
Yeah, it's pretty sad, and you know, and again, it affects your health. You know, it affects your mind. It makes you aggressive. You end up getting cancer. It's not worth it. I feel so much better ever since we've just totally become vegan, because we were kind of vegetarian. We were doing the eggs thing for a while back, and you know, some cheese, and we just cut it all out. We did fish for a while, and we just cut it all out, completely, and now we're just fully vegan.
And you know what? The reality is that form of carbohydrate, potatoes, beans, legumes, rice, pastas, different, you know, whole grain pastas. These things are the only things that bring satiety to that stomach that's the size of a fist. So if you fill it up with rice or with potatoes, sweet potatoes, or whatever, you know, I mean, it would go so far to making you feel more full.
Definitely. And you know, people don't realize that fat has 9 calories per gram. So that means that, you know, you're going to get a lot more calories when you eat fat, and you're going to stay hungry because you're not getting it. Like a tablespoon of olive oil has 14 grams of fat. 14 times 9, do the math, you know?
And then we're talking about, you know, just the fact that cooking stuff in oil adds so much fat, you know? I mean, you make me chips and stuff and bake them in the oven, and the tortilla chips are crunchier. They taste more flavorful when you bake it. And you just wonder why the industries out there are still using cooking oil when they could save money, really, by baking things.
I know, and it tastes much more crispier, and it doesn't have all that oil in it. But you know, it's your health, folks, and it's a karma that we are creating by treating these precious animals that my heart just, I can't even, you know, as you become vegan, you become more open and more sensitive and more loving. You do. I mean, it's just a change that happens to you automatically. And you start really feeling, you know, these things. Like every time I watch these videos, and it's just like, it hurts me. It's just like, I can't even explain it. And it's like, there's no need, because I particularly never liked meat as a kid. You know, I remember I used to chew it, throw it out, and give it to the dogs. I hated all the chewing involved. It's like I knew from that time, you know, and it's wrong. It's wrong, and not judging anyone, but you know, go into your heart and tell me, after seeing the stuff that you saw and hearing the stuff that we've been trying to educate you with, do you still feel the urge to go out there and drink some milk and eat beef and chicken and all that stuff, even after you know these animals are being treated for your consumption? I mean, it's just
when you know, and the big key is here, when you know that you very well can just go to the grocery store, buy all kinds of plant-based foods that are there for you to enjoy, for you to flavor with different spices and different tastes and stuff, and herbs and things. And you know that you could do that, and that you could get full. But instead you choose to go to the meat section and buy that big piece of whatever, and you know, the chicken drummies, and it's like, why?
And plant protein
Why bother?
have been found that have a new research, and we don't have time to read this article, but is better than animal protein for building muscle. You know, and most people have been lied to in saying the other. If your body can't break down animal protein, and after you cook it as void and dead, then how in the world do you think that's going to constitute, you know?
And then, you know, what the Dr. McDougall says that, oh no, it's not Dr. McDougall, it's another doctor. It says that eating animal protein actually awakens cancer cells and feeds them. Whereas eating plant-based protein does nothing like that. It prevents them from becoming rogue. So, you know, it's up to you and your health. I know that cutting out meat is, I never thought I'd do it because unlike you, Mark, I enjoyed steak, I enjoyed chicken, I enjoy pork ribs and beef ribs, all that.
That's what you were raised to enjoy.
I didn't know any different. So, I mean, when meat was cooked, overcooked, I didn't like it. But it's weird how, you know, the more tender the meat is, the more rare it has to be almost, you know. So it's, I don't know. It's just weird that, you know, when you're cutting into a steak and you see the red, that juice that comes out, and you're like
the violent nature of blood.
Is that blood?
It's like they're
People
programming
giving a rare steak, you know, they like them rare, and they cut it and it's got blood. Filet mignon. You know, I mean,
and your body doesn't have the acidity to be able to deal with that and the bacteria. That's why a lot of people, what do you think restaurants tell you we can't serve you medium rare? Because there's bacteria in that meat and you'll get sick. So
yeah, because
you got to kill the darn thing to death.
Our stomachs don't have capability.
So food for thought on that one, you know, and it's like, you know, I got a clue when we were going to all you can eat sushi and I got sick 2 times. Fever of 102. You know, eating all you can eat sushi. So, I mean, that was like a clue that the universe telling me, no more. You know, no more. Stop.
No, we didn't equate, you know, seafood as being
flesh.
Yeah, you know, but it is. I mean, fish feel, fish.
Yeah,
you know,
have a face.
I mean, have a face.
Yeah,
I mean,
shrimp
have a face.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that octopus.
Yeah. Oh, and they're the most friendliest.
Yeah.
Little octopuses are very sociable animals. They have feelings, folks, you know. There's no need for that. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and say goodbye. We won't be on next week. We'll be on our cruise, actually, enjoying all sorts of carbohydrates. It's going to be challenging. Not so much the vegan part, but the low-fat vegan, because we are low-fat vegan. We try to stay away from fats, you know, nuts and oils, and just try to just be as pure carbs as possible.
Yeah.
So that's
cruise ships aren't really set up that way.
Yeah.
But, you know, we'll figure out.
Yeah. Well, there's potatoes. You have to make sure the pasta doesn't have eggs. They do have different types, and it takes a little work, but to me it's worth it because I don't want to make myself sick, especially not on a cruise ship. And when you stop eating bad foods and you bring bad foods back into your system, you will get sick.
Yeah.
And especially in a thing that's moving. Not good.
Does it move a lot?
It can. Depends on how rough the oceans are. But, you know, hopefully oceans are rough. I'm going to go ahead and play for you one of my originals called Forgotten. It's a pretty song, very deep. Talks about, I wrote it in the sense of, you know, humankind and the material things and how, you know, you see the man out on the street, like we saw the homeless man last week when we were walking. He was happier than the couple that was walking, they looked like they were affluent, you know. But remember, guys, we love you. But remember to always love yourselves too. Good night, and see you in a few weeks.
Said the man on the road, what's your story? What's your name? As I look at his face, saw the wrinkles that he made. We live our lives with hidden faith and forgotten. It's
it's all a game. Wearing brown, getting towns, driving cars, won't get smart. Wondering, where will we be if our jobs take it away? Do you know where you go if your world fell apart? We live our lives with hidden pain and forgotten it's all a game. Wearing brown, getting down, driving cars won't get us far. So you see that man on the road. He had once and a car of his own, and now his life took a turn, but he's happier now than he was before. With all your goods and all your toys, you're happy, the prisoner of this world. You live our lives with hidden pain and forgotten it's all a game. Wearing brown, getting down, driving cars won't get us far. That could be you, or that could be me. You can be that man on the streets without shoes or food to eat. You can be that man on the streets without shoes or food to eat. That could be me. That could be you. That could be me. Be that on the streets without shoes or food to eat. That could be you, or that could be me.